Okay, the other day we were driving and I looked out the mirror and realized we had a giant plume of oil behind us, so I pulled over real fast, looked under the bus, and it is completely coated in oil. I started just looking for a cause of it, and I found out that on the side of the oil pan on this 7.3 Power Stroke here, there is a nut that holds the dipstick in. It's a pretty good sized nut, I'll show you here, and that backed its way off. Luckily it didn't come all the way off. I stopped fast enough. What I read is if it comes all the way off, it'll fall into the oil pan, and then it's a big job. So I was able to just tighten it down for the time being because we were in the middle of nowhere, get into town here, and there's a couple ways you can do it. You can drop the oil pan and replace the entire seal on the back side of it and the front side, and do a more proper way of a fix, so you're buying a whole new part. Or the way I'm going to do it, because the piece didn't fall in the oil pan, I'm going to leave the oil pan up, I'm going to back that nut off, clean around really well, get all the oil off, and I'm going to take RTV black, so it's for oil, and I'm going to put a bead around where the nut goes, tighten the nut back up, and from what I read, you don't want to over tighten this nut. I didn't see any torque specs, but I'll do the good old forearm torque of not over tightening it. So then I'll tighten it back up with that RTV, and then RTV around it again. And I've talked to someone, one of my friends that I know, and he did this I think 4 years ago to his 7.3, hasn't had an issue with it since. So I think this will work really well as far as like a 30-minute fix rather than a 4-hour fix if I had to pull the oil pan off. Now if the oil pan was leaking really bad around the seals, I'd pull the oil pan off and do it the correct way, but I don't have any oil pan leaking around the seal, so I'm just going to do it the Jimmy rigged way. So here we go. Okay, locating this is underneath the bus. It is a 3800 International T44E, so 7.3 Power Stroke essentially. And here's tires. Now what we're looking for is there is the starter right here. That's the starter, and then right behind this loom here you will see the dipstick coming down, that nut right there, and that's the starter. We are looking at this nut that's in focus right now. You can see the little scratch marks from me tightening it down. I'm going to back it off while holding it in place, clean up around the area, get all the oil, and put some RTV on there. Now locating this, we will back up. You can see here is the spring, starter, oil pan, and there's that nut right in. Okay, move the starter out. As you can see, I have everything still hooked up to it, so I don't have to worry about that at all. You can see there's, here, let me show you this. That's the bolt pattern, 3, left, right, top. Pulled it right down. I had to take off this little hose here because it was not wanting it to move. I think that's a transmission cooler. But now we can work with this nut here. That nut right there is what we've been trying to get to. Now we have full access to it. I can clean it up really good, get my hand back there and put some RTV on it. So that's exciting. Okay, as you can see, I have it cleaned up much better there. Took the wire brush around it, sprayed it all down. So now what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna grab my pliers here, grab on and loosen it up. Take it off and then clean up behind here, clean up under here real good, and then RTV it up. Okay, here we go. I loosen it up. Now it can come off. Now I'm making sure that this tube here has tension on it pulling away, because I don't want that to fall in. You can see the oil leaking out right now. From what I read, your oil level should be like way down here, so really the only time oil is going to be that high up is when the motor's running. So now what I'm gonna do is take a zip tie and zip tie this ring out of the way and clean around real good. And then clean the back side of the ring, RTV, and then tighten it right back up. I have it zip tied just right to this wire loom, just out of my way. Now I'm gonna take card cleaner. Card cleaner is much better for oil. So I will just, it gets off any little residue. Okay. Take my wire brush. And it's like brushing your teeth. Same color and everything. Okay, now the trusty paper towels. Now I'm gonna go ahead and clean up this ring up here. Around, you can see it coming out the tube there. All good. So now I'm just gonna clip my zip tie off here without clipping a wire. Ring falls right into place. And I'm doing this while it's wet. I don't want to let any cure time happen because it'll just tear that RTV up. So screw it on in. Yeah, that looks good. And hopefully that'll also, this will also help this nut from moving. Because like I said, when I first caught this issue, this nut was real loose and just backed off. I think just from the good old rumble from these 7.3s caused that. Now I'm gonna let this cure for like a full day. In a pinch, I guess you could let it cure for like 2 hours, but I'm gonna let that cure for a full day. I'm not going anywhere. And then I'm just gonna bolt up that starter. Pray that it doesn't leak anymore. Okay, in my case the starter is way in the way of everything, so I am gonna just go ahead and, in my case the starter is in the way of it, and I don't want to create any more of a leak, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the starter off and then continue the job. Okay, so appears like there's 3 bolts on this starter here. I have the one here that I just took off. There's one right on the other side and then one right on top. Now it's all pretty tight, so I'm using a lot of extensions to get to them. So far I got one off, and then now I'm about to work on the other 2. And I'm not gonna unhook any of the wiring on it or anything. I'm just going to pull it off and let it drop, just so I can get to this.